Going into My Hero manga spoilers in this one. So if you don't want to know what's going to happen past season 4 of the anime, I suggest you check out now. Alright, so I think I got a pretty fun theory today because it revolves around Izuku's original quirk and what it could have been. Now you might be thinking like, well, they said in the first episode that Izuku was born quirkless. So like, what are you talking about? How did he have a quirk? Well, I'm going to explain that, of course. But before I can even explain what his original quirk could have been and why it might have been taken away, I first need to establish like another wild theory or hypothesis or whatever, and that is All For One being Izuku's dad. Yep. So I know that's a pretty popular, long-running theory within the community, but maybe some of you aren't aware of it, or maybe some of you are aware of it, but just don't know the finer details of it. So first, let me establish that because it's going to make all of the other stuff with his quirk makes sense. All right, so Izuku's dad, one of the, if not the most mysterious character in the series, pretty much, and that's like a big red flag right there. This guy is hardly ever talked about. This guy apparently is always away because of his job. Now that's another red flag. And the fact that like he is a person that exists, and the fact that he's never around, never talked about or anything, it's interesting, right? Because like, if this character was going to have this type of role in the series, why didn't Horikoshi just like have him die, you know, like in Izuku when he was like a kid or something? Maybe villain killed him or something, I don't know. But like the fact that could be, you know, out there, he could be, you know, in the story at any point is interesting. So the thing that like really makes this muddled is like we don't know the last time he was like home, or like the last time Izuku saw him in person, because it goes back to when he fought All Might in their primes. That was like 6 years ago, and then All Might turned him into a potato face. So like what I'm saying is 6 years ago he formed his potato face. I don't think he'd probably be showing up home or like seeing Izuku's mom or Izuku, because it'd kind of be hard to explain the potato face thing. So I'm thinking that like if Izuku's dad is somehow confirmed eventually to not have been home for the last 6 years at least, then I think it's very likely that it's All For One. So also another thing about All For One is that we never fully see his face, going back to like the potatofication that happens to it. But even before that, like when we see flashbacks of him in the manga, in the anime, whatever, it's like always obscured in some way, either by shadows or there's just some kind of obstruction to it. Now I thought originally that this was just because I don't know, maybe All For One represented like the ultimate evil. Maybe he was like more of an abstract idea or something rather than like representing an actual person. So he doesn't need too much of like a definitive identity to him. I thought, okay, that's cool. But now I'm thinking that like maybe it's because if we see his full face unobscured, maybe it will reveal he looks like Izuku or something. I mean, for the most part, Izuku definitely looks the most like his mom. They both have like the same hair color, the same eyes, and basically the same like facial structure and aesthetics and everything else. But if we go back to like young All For One or young girl All For One in like the flashback, his hair kind of looks like Izuku's. Kind of. I'm not saying that this is like the smoking gun here and this proves it. I'm just saying like, just look at it. Kind of looks like. And also another big bit of connective tissue that we need to fit in here is that Horikoshi is a big fan of Star Wars, like a big fan. Like there's so many inspirations that you can just see in this series that are coming from Star Wars. Like you could just talk about it for like a half hour, all the cities and everything else. But also there could be character parallels and storylines as well, because look at All For One, kind of looks like Darth Vader here. We know that Darth Vader, of course, it's the big twist in Star Wars that he is the father of Luke, which would be the big twist in My Hero here. Luke would be Izuku, and then of course, like I said, All For One, Darth Vader, dark side versus the light side, All For One, one for all, So then we have that established that like All For One is possibly Izuku's dad. And that brings me to what Izuku's original quirk could have been. Now, let's go back to when Yujiko, that's a big one right there, who's hiding in plain sight in the first episode, even for the audience, when he, who's of course, All For One's right-hand man, tells Izuku that or tells his mom too, that he doesn't have a quirk, and then shows him the x-ray of the pinky thing, which could easily be fabricated. I mean, it's Yujiko, would you really put it past him? But anyway, that whole sequence right there, I think, is not only setting up that All for One is his dad, but it's also setting up the big like ring scheme operation that All for One and Yujiko have here. And I think it's ultimately coming down to when we see Yujiko's like quirk collection that he has like in his lab beneath the hospital, like the way that he was able to harvest all of those quirks. I think it has something to do with like this scheme that he's running in the hospital with taking quirks from these kids. Now, it also comes back to what Izuku's mom has to do with this and like why All for One had to be with her. So I'm thinking that like All for One, it probably just randomly seduced women throughout the years in case they had like a quirk that he wanted to like pass on to an offspring or something, or that he wanted to take from her, or he wanted to take from the kid. And I think that's what's going on here, is that like Yujiko and All for One are kind of just like breeding these kids to have the quirks that they need, and then they're taking the quirks from them when they're of age, like when the quirk would manifest, I don't know, like when they're 4 years old or something, and then just simply telling the parents that like, yeah, sorry, he was born quirkless, and then showing them like a fake x-ray, which you're not going to dispute because why would you? And then, that just adds to the collection further, and also them developing the quirks that they want. Now, I don't think this is essentially the only method that he has to create or replicate quirks, but it's definitely one of them. And I think it goes back to like what Yujiko is talking about, like in chapter 260, like when Mirko is like breaking into the lab and he's like, do you have any idea how long it takes to replicate and manifest a quirk? And I think that one of the reasons why he says that is possibly because like, All for One needs to find the woman that he's going to, elope with, and then they need to make the act, and they need to create the kid, and then the kid needs to grow up to be, like 4 years old, so his quirk can even manifest for them to take it. So that could be one of the reasons why it takes so long. This is like a 5-6 year process just to like make one of the quirks they want, or to replicate one of the quirks. And replicating the quirks, I think, could be All for One itself. Like, I think that could possibly be Izuku's original quirk, which would be pretty cool and, poetic and tying everything together, don't you think? Now, I'm thinking that, like, All for One tried to replicate his quirk, but maybe he found out that the only way to do it is to pass it on hereditarily. Because that's like one of the other themes in the series. It's like we've seen, Bakugo, Todoroki, they got their quirks from their parents. So I'm thinking that like he tried to do that with his own quirk because he wanted to replicate it, of course. And according to the quirk singularity theory, All for One would technically become stronger, being hereditarily passed down. But maybe in this case it doesn't. Maybe it just becomes like an inferior version, or maybe just it's like a lateral improvement possibly. But anyway, he finds Izuku's mom and then decides to be with her so that he can pass on a duplicated or a synthetic version of All for One to Izuku, so that he can take it from him, so that, they have the backup. And it could also be the quirk that they give to Nine. Maybe that could explain that, because we find out, Nine's origin with Yujiko in the Vigilantes bonus chapter. So this could be that, or it could be something else as well, or it could just be another quirk that we've seen All for One or Shigaraki or somebody use. Maybe they used Izuku just as like some way to manifest a new quirk that they just needed or something, And also, I think this is the origin to the decay quirk from Shigaraki, which requires like a whole nother video to go into, but just keep that in mind as well. And now I just want to like answer like why Izuku, like why was he chosen? Why was his mom chosen? Like, is he the chosen one? Is he like playing a big part like Shigaraki and All Might and all of them? It's like, no, I think he's just a random bystander. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time, or in this case, maybe the right place at the right time. Because I think that All for One chose Izuku's mom because she looked like Nana, the 7th user of One for All. And that's like, why? Now, this is going to go back to like after All Might fought All for One and like had that discussion with Izuku's mom and Izuku. And then after that's all over, All Might talks to Izuku and he's like, yeah, your mom kind of reminds me of Nana. And more or less, I'm paraphrasing here, but he's like, yeah, maybe it's her hairstyle. I don't know. She reminds me of her. So when I originally saw that, I was like, oh, that's weird. Why did he say that? Does that like have a bigger meaning to something? Or is that going to play a part later on? Or is that just subtle development for All Might's character or something? I don't know. But now I'm thinking that this might mean, now I'm big stretch here, big jump, but stay with me. I'm thinking this might mean that All For One maybe was in love with Nana or something, or like liked her or something, and like obviously she didn't reciprocate the feelings, and maybe like, I don't know, he just went after women that look like her. And, like, that's just randomly why Izuku was born, because of All For One liking Nana, possibly. But, yeah, that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. Let me know what you think about this theory. I mean, if you liked it, guys, if it entertained you, please give it a like. I also have a Patreon. It gives you extra weekly Q&A. And if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.